saying it's not a document, so you can't say.
Oh, so like 5 steps.
So there's a question in the class about Chagishawu's verb.
Online verb.
So there's the Gold Belt one, and then there's the one on the Alaska Native Knowledge Network. I know some folks were preferring the Gold Belt one for some things. The one on the Alaska Native Knowledge Network has probably 1,000 verbs, whereas the other one has about 600 or 700. And so I guess I just call it Tlingit verb 16 because that's how it comes up. So that's this one here. And usually if you keep it open in a browser, you can still use it whether you have internet connection or not. We had an idea. There's a student, learner, speaker, advocate in Kwanlin. Kwanlin kaya yet uchkla akayeti ayatid nesi. Hoko akadanye jiwune hayukatangidat. Ya awahutu ditawasagu ga what PDF aya outlayech yat adach. So we talked about this because towards the end of one of the classes, students were asking for projects. And she did 2 really amazing projects. And so one is she went through this and she opened all of them. Click, 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 click. And I said, if you really want something to do, open every single thing on there. Push Control A. I'm sure if you know code and stuff, there's a faster way. But just copy and paste it. And so we do have this in a document, so I haven't stolen anything. We're using her work. We're giving her credit. I've been accused of stealing before. But so here, the one thing that does not copy over, though, is sometimes it'll show you imperative, so it shows you what the verb mode is. So that did not copy over. But I'd be happy to put this up there, and then you can see the translation. But if you're just trying to look something up quickly and you might not want to browse, or maybe you don't have internet connection, if you've ever taught at a camp 20 miles outside of Atlin, you're not connected to anything. It doesn't matter how high you throw your phone. There's no internet there. And so we got in this kind of debate because I was like, we need to get some kind of even like an app-based version would be wonderful. And I think we're going to get there with some of that stuff. But in the meantime, I can make a PDF out of this. It's in this document, this format called Pages. So some of us work in a program called Pages, which is just the Mac version of Microsoft Word. And so we do have that. I could put that up there. Another one is, has anybody taken a look at this thing here?
I've tried to.
So it's getting into you're getting deep into the weeds with this one, but it does have lots and lots of verbs. It's all handwritten too, which is kind of interesting. I was talking to Weha, Jeff Lear, I was like, we got to find the last page as it stops at the underline K, and he says, oh no, I just got to finish it. And so it's like, well, we're going to get him on that. But we do also have, and so I'll put these under today's classroom so you guys have some things to browse through, because we also have a typed version of this. So she did these 2 projects, which are pretty incredible. One's a lot of clicking, click, 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 and the other is just an awful lot of reading and typing. And so the nice thing is you have it, and it'll be a table, and you can search for things. It's not always sometimes you can just browse through, because if you're not sure what to do, you can just sort of take a look and you're like, oh, there's a verb for that. Oh, there's a verb for that. Then as you go further, there might be some things, you're like, oh yeah, I'm starting to recognize some things that are in there. There are thousands and thousands of Tlingit verbs. So I'll make sure these are both up there. Sometimes we got to kind of guess because he's got his way of kind of writing things sometimes. They're notes kind of to himself as well. Some things that you will see in here is some downward marking tones. Anybody know what that is?
We used to have downward marking tones, but now it's just.
From Nation Story.
Nation Story used it to say this is low. It used to mark, but this on a short vowel with a downward tone, that means long and low. So if we wanted to go through something like this and say, oh yeah, nowadays we would write it these like that. But you know, and we try to sort of update it, and I encourage her just if you know what that is, then write it that way. But there's a few things in this one, but most of it is written in our standardized orthography. So, any questions? Anything that we can help sort out, figure out? I know a couple of folks want to do their presentations this evening, which we will allow. The judges have spoken. But yeah, any questions before we dive into a little bit of content first?
Okay.
So let's see, what are we going to do? I think we should do some suffix stuff.
Can we see that there are many again on the handwritten notes?
Right here.
How do you say that?
Shayaw daha, but most people will say shayadahin. Although shayadahin technically should be many living things because they have heads. So this wouldn't be a lot of paper clips. This wouldn't be a lot of coffee.
What if I want to say Shayadahin, that uncles?
What?
Uncles.
Yeah, that's fine. Many uncles. Yeah, it works really well for people. It works pretty well for animals. The other way is atlein. But it's interesting because atlein could mean a big one, but it could also mean there are many.
Okay.
So it's really interesting in Tlingit because yagay could also mean big, but it can also mean many. And so it's really, you kind of pull it out of context from what people are saying, and then you kind of figure out how to put those things together. But to find this one, so here's, it's under ha. So the other thing you could do is if you look in here, you say, oh, that's a neat verb. I wonder if Carrie has that in her work. And then we could go down to ha. And there's many, plenty, lots. So here it is, shayadahin. There are a lot. Keshawudahin. There aren't many. Yas shayandahin. There's getting to be a lot. Shayawdaha. There got to be a lot of them. And so, Shayaguhdaha, there will be a lot. Right? Shayadahin is the way that you hear this one most commonly, I think, is just sort of saying it like that, like there's a lot right now.
So he underlined the Y.
Yes, so he did underline, you'll see this underlined Y, and what we do nowadays, we're going to write that as a Y with 2 dots over it. So there was this sound, it's still in Teslin, it's still, I hear Marcia Hotch use it, so it's in Klukwan, where there was this sound. Let me make a note of this so you guys could see it. And the sound is kind of fading out. And we'll call it the gamma. It's a nasalized Y sound. I don't know what's going on here. I want a new thing. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Here, I'll put it on this thing. So, let me make this bigger. So we know what this is, right? Do yadi?
Their
Child.
child.
His or her child, right? So a long time ago, I think they said this. And so it was do nyeti. So it's this ng sound, right? It's this nasally kind of an N. You'll really hear it in Teslin, because we say gai denak for stand up, and they'll say ging denak, like you will hear that sound. And they will correct you if you say gai denak. Not if you're speaking, but if you're teaching people in Teslin how to speak, they want you to use their dialect. And so what happened as the sound fades out is the Y kind of becomes one of two things. So it's going to become, what's going on there? It's going to become either a Y, oops, do what I want you to do. So that happens when I try to type and talk. Or it's going to become a W. So this also shows us some things about the perfective marker, right? So this is what we were finding, is we were finding some old speakers that were recorded quite a while ago, and what they would say is they would say wadi, right? And so we were seeing that if it followed a U sound, which we talk about this rounding type of stuff, we're talking about that with suffixes, that if you have this U, you might end up with a W at the end, or a U at the end, like you'd say ach, ga, wu, right? And so this was something that we were kind of seeing. And so this is why also, and it's interesting to just sort of keep an eye on which communities, what's going on in which communities. So you could say huwati for the weather to be a certain way. And you can say, oops, you could say huwake for the weather to be good. But we were noticing speakers in Sitka preferred to say kuyati and kuyake, right? So they didn't like that switch to the W, but we see that happen regularly with that sound. So Weha in his notes writes it often as a Y with an underline, and then we write it now with a Y with the two dots. And then sometimes we'll put it in there when we start breaking things apart. Like this W is how we used to write the perfective marker. But nowadays, we write that perfective marker like this. Because it used to be that sound, and now it'll be most of the time a W, but there are cases where it'll be a Y, right? And then it'll be a Y only for the second person, right? And so to see some kind of concrete examples of this, so as we're sort of, we'll take something like this. So huaseku. So to hear, to say, I know it. There's a perfective marker in that verb. There has to be a perfective marker in that verb. And what you're getting here is you're getting a 0 and a y and a cha and a se and ku. So like all these things are kind of adding up. And so all these things, when you smash them together, you get huaseku, right? And so as we wanted to go through and start changing this, maybe I'll put this part first. Like,
What was the question?
why did he write the Y with the line under it? Now I'm launching into this long thing.
So the in this verb huaseku, the way we know it's perfective is from the wa.
Yeah, whenever you have hua, if you hear hua, you know that's a perfective verb, right? And it's just saying it has already happened. Or the perfective marker, once we put that in there, we're saying we're looking at this verb in terms of whether or not it has happened. And then the classifier, if it's plus I, it means it has happened. Minus I means it hasn't happened.
And when you're saying plus and minus I, you're referring to the perfective marker, the U?
Classifier,
The classifier, okay.
right? Because if we put tlech in front of it, now what has to happen, we still get this is the object, then you're going to get the perfective marker, and it's still going to be me, but now it's going to be sa. And then the root is also going to change. And so this is going to be tlech huasaku. Right, and so what we'll start doing next semester is looking at these components often enough that they do start to make sense. But right now it's it's a long answer because it's an important sound. It's a sound that has sort of faded out of Tlingit. You listen to real old recordings and you will catch that sound. Susie James, you'll hear her using that sound. Robert Zuboff. There's a connection here with that M that we get in Canada. It's this sound. It became an M up there, and it's going to be one of these gamma type sounds. And so it's interesting to see the way that it has changed. And there's also this pretty commonly used combination that is, it used to look like this, nya. It means sort of in that area. And that's why you've got Nanya Ayi as a clan, and you've got Sanya, which is the Wrangell kind of area, and you've got Hinya, which is the Klawak area. And so that sound is built in there. Hunya, that's why, like Huna, if you hear some of the old people, they'll say, well, it's Hunya, because that nya sound used to be in there. And so just the ways that this sound transforms as that sound drops out of Tlingit, it usually becomes niya or yina, but you'll see it sort of kind of go back and forth.
No, what do you mean by those gamma sounds?
That's just what we call that n, n. So like as the Tlingit language loses that sound, I don't know why it's called that.
It's an angma, that n,
N.
n, yeah, that velar nasal.
Oh, okay. We called it Tlewaki Y. We call it Tlewaki Y.
It's made up.
We called it the Y with the eyes on it.
Gamma is a kind of a G thing, so,
Right?
but yeah, so I have never understood that.
I don't know who named it or why. That's a good question.
Yeah, but that's the only instance I've heard of that angma sound, and they write it like an N with a tail. Like,
Oh yeah, because they have it in Inupiaq.
Yeah.
So they'll write it with that. They write it like that.
right, but there's none in Tlingit, and that's why Tlingit people sin for she. You know,
Right.
That's why they said there was, we didn't have that sound. I mean, I've heard someone say we don't have that, like
mm,
swing.
Yeah, yeah. The ng sound, like not really that combination. There's this one's kind of similar, but I think
Similar, I mean, it's pretty similar.
yeah. And if you just like and it's just kind of up there. And when you hear those old people, like I'm not very good, but if you hear those, just listen to those old people make it, or if you go to Tesla, like Bessie Cooley, like she'll make that sound all the time. But then once you start listening for it, you'll catch it, especially with those old recordings. You okay?
I really can't figure out on that first line there, what happened to the U? Because we have that for cha.
Mhm.
Is it the W?
So yeah, that's a really good question. It's a really good question. So let me show you what we do in that.
If you want me to just wait till next.
No, I'll show you what we do in the other class, because what we do is we start sort of,
Oh, see, that's
know,
helpful.
we go a little crazy. So like what happens in this, so a perfective marker is in, all of these are perfectives, right? And so like the short answer is you can look at something like this, you say, what's the classifier? Okay, I can say any verb in a perfective mode just by grabbing this. What you learn how to do to use a Tlingit verb is you say, what's the prefix going to be and what's the stem going to be? And at first you just start memorizing that stuff, but eventually you start to work on those patterns. This plus this will equal that. And so what you've got here, I guess it's not this one. Let me show you different. So I'll give you guys some fun reading to do over the winter break. I'll just put all this stuff up on our website, like the Lear notes that are typed up and the Chakishawu, her verb dictionary typed out. And then I started this project that I'll probably finish next year, maybe, that really sort of walks through how to put these verbs together. Because that's sort of the plan right now for learning Tlingit. Is at beginning Tlingit, you're learning the names of things, you're learning some patterns you can memorize, and then we start to sort of untangle what's going on beneath the surface. So at intermediate Tlingit, we say, okay, well, there's nouns, and then there's verbs, and let's teach you all the other things. These little directional things, these bases, and these other things. And then we say, okay, now you've got all that. Here's some particles. Here's everything else. Now let's just go muck around with these verbs for a long time. And then we start to pull these verbs apart, because really, with a verb, there tends to be kind of three main things that you do with it. One is you change who are we talking about? You know, is it me? Is it you? Is it them? So you're changing it for person, objects and subjects. The second thing is you're changing it for what we call mode and what English calls tense. So it's like, well, what are we communicating? Like, it's going to happen, not going to happen, do that thing. And then the third thing is, how does it tie to other things? Because that could sort of affect it. So those are the three things we start to focus on. And with Tlingit, there's a bunch of moving parts, but there's only so many. So once we start focusing on, let's just change the object in these. So you go through these things. You say, I'm good, you're good, she or he is good, we are good, y'all are good, they are good, people are good. And then we start changing the subject, and then we start moving the verb around in these different ways. And so that's kind of the plan. And then once you get to advanced Tlingit, it's just kind of learning, just trying to talk more and listen more, but then also trying to really focus on some of these verb modes and get to the mysteries of how to put them together. It's very formula driven, but sometimes it could be kind of a little bit jarring to sort of get in there and look at these things like that. So this is the one I'll put up there, and it talks about the perfective. When I make this book, I wanted to have pictures of people really having fun learning Tlingit, so I can be like, gotcha, right? Like, but it's fun, but it just can get a little confusing. So like, I got this idea from a student named Juno Diedrichsen, who was getting frustrated. He's like, I need to see the parts. Show me the parts. And so I started making these tables that just breaks it apart. So here's the perfective marker. It will and the way it appears is in between the object and the subject. Right? So we're going to start with that. We won't put any thematic things in there. So if you have an object, you have a subject, the perfective marker will pop up right there. Right? Then what we're going to do, we'll keep the object third person, and then this is the verb to sew. And then this will be me, us, you, y'all, she or he, them, which gets the hus added on the outside, and then someone. So that's every possible person that could do a verb in Tlingit. And then what we do is we start sort of putting those together, which I think are up here. So then you're going to have huaka. I guess I'll say it and you guys say it just so we can just practice. Huaka, huaka, watuwaka, watuwaka, yika, 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 awaka, awaka, As'awaqa,
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 wuduwaqa,
wuduwaqa,
wuduwaqa.
wuduwaqa.
So if you have any verb that has a zero group classifier, it's going to be very similar to that. Like for example, all of these are sewing, but there's a very similar verb in terms of structure, which will end, what we'll do is we'll change this end to cha, and now it's eating. It would be chwacha, wutuwacha, yicha, yicha, awacha, hasawacha, wuduwacha, every single time. So it is absolutely predictable. So what you do is you start learning how these things get put together, and what'll change it is whether, once you change that classifier, then it'll change. But then that also becomes extremely predictable. And so what we try to do, and we'll start doing this next semester, is we'll do a little bit of this. We'll just start rolling through some stuff and taking these verbs apart, and then and what we'll do is we'll run through a whole bunch of different things, like every combination, every different classifier will have a perfective verb. And then I'll show you some, and you'll be able to put it together yourself. And you'll be able to do it. Dessa.
And the classifier in this one is what?
Well, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And so some things that, there's some patterns that you'll notice, right? So what happens when you get y plus cha plus ya is you get hua. And it's just, it kind of jumps over and then gets absorbed into the classifier. But that's just what it does. But then if these, so the two options you have for I did it, you'd have hua, but then you could have huase, huasle, huade, huashe, huadje, and so the other pattern you learn is you say, okay, well that's the zero group. If I had a different classifier, it's gonna have this different pattern, but those patterns are all the same because all I'll do is just change the consonant in the classifier. And so we'll look at that stuff later then.
Do you know it's a zero group by looking at the word or just by memorizing that that word is a zero group?
That's a good question. And another really good question is like, how do people learn all this stuff like from birth? But there's stuff in English too that you just know, right? And so it's not, Tlinget's not unusual. It's just a language, but there's tons of stuff in there that you've got to figure out. You figure out how it works, but then if you listen to birth speakers, we were talking about this last night, they'll just correct you. And then we'll like, oh yeah, I forgot it was this type of thing. So as a second language learner, usually if I want to know a verb, I'll look it up and I'll say, oh, what's the classifier? What's the conjugation prefix? What's the stem variation? And then the rest is information that I can memorize. But if I hear somebody say a verb, if I hear it in enough modes, I'll be able to figure that out because you can reverse it because all that stuff adds up to a certain combination of sounds. And also, there's some things that we're going to learn that also what that final stem is, which in this case it's long and high, that is also predictable. Because you'd say, for example, you see this is long and high? Hua ka. And if I eat, hua cha. I slept, hua ta. That one's low. And there's a reason. It's just like another, you're just going to start getting so like, now you're going to start, you learn how to play Go Fish, and now you're going to learn how to play cribbage, where you're like, wait, what is that? Okay, when I've got that, but it's like learning to play cribbage with Raven. So there's all these fun things. And then sometimes we'll read from the book of exceptions, because it's like this, yeah, except for these things.
Are these charts in the workbook?
No, so this is actually, if everything goes the way I want it to, for now, I won't be teaching next year. I'm going to try and finish this book. So the idea was there's the beginning Tlingit workbook, then there's Hausane Chayuchatangi, which is the intermediate book, and then this one, which is the advanced book, which is really how do you make these verbs?
You said the three things you look at are classifier, conjugation, prefix, and what was the last one?
Stem variation. So when we document a verb now, it looks like a math problem, but it tells you kind of everything that you need in there. For example, so this one, we'd probably write it this way nowadays, right? And N is just a noun. That's all it is. It's just to be situated there, especially for a building. Let's actually look at it different. Let's just look at the verb that we were just using, so we're not trying to do a whole bunch of different stuff. So if we go look up this verb, here's sewing, and here's the verb we were just looking at. So here's awaka, right? And so ideally, this will show you how to put it in the third person, and now you can go change it. First person, second person, fourth person. But as we look it up, it tells you there's an object, there's a subject. So it's telling you that stuff. So you have to keep them in there. You cannot remove them. And also, if it's not there, you cannot add it, right? There might be another verb that has it, but this is something with Tlingit, is those objects and subjects are built in, and you can't change. You got to remember it's there, right? And then that's telling you this is a zero group classifier. This is the verb root ka. This little tilde just says the stem changes. In the future, I don't think we'll use this tilde in the future. We'll just we'll put a different symbol there, but it's just telling you what's the stem gonna do in these certain modes. Then it tells you it's a zero conjugation class or conjugation prefix, and we know it's zero because the command form shows there's nothing there. If this was a na verb, then the command form would say naka, like nata, right? So the other thing is, if you can get someone to say, how would you command someone to do that? Then you'll hear that conjugation thing in there. It affects the verb in other ways, but the command form, you'll need to know it to use the command form. And then it's an act verb. So there's different types of verb: an act, an event, a position, a state, and motion. And we'll learn why do we have to think of that, and we'll learn what all that stuff is about. And we try to do it in these kind of stages. So this is the part of the class where we start pulling the curtain back a little bit, which every language does it. Like we're in Hawaii, and we said, oh, we learned the first person possessive pronoun. It was really cool. And they said, did they tell you there's 3 versions of it? And we're like, what? No. And so for Hawaiian, you have 3 navels, a piko. You have one in your head, you have one in your belly button, you have one in your crotch. And this one connects you to the thought world and the heavens, and then the belly button one connects you to your ancestors because that's where your mama gave you food, and the crotch one connects you to the future generations because that's how they get made, right? But then they're each associated with a vowel, and you pick which vowel you use depending on how you're related to that thing. It's like
I thought Hawaiian was simple.
every language is complicated.
So,
Every language is complicated.
and all the command ones, you ended it always with the exclamation mark?
We do, and we just put that in there to say where that's a command, and so it doesn't indicate like any sort of tone or loudness, but really we'll put hortatives and the commands with an exclamation point.
So when we're writing it, we should do that?
I think so.
I think it's because it just signals that somebody wants that thing to happen. It's coming out as a command. Okay. Okay. So now we'll put the curtain back. Don't worry about any of it. It's coming. Right? Okay, I had one down here. Hold on. And so we'll back up a little bit and look at these bases and suffixes. I like that picture. A little Ava. Yes. We're doing these workshops in Carcross. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about that zero in front of it.
Uh-huh.
And I just looked at it because in so, it's just like you said, so to so, it's just ka.
Mm-hmm.
So the zero means literally there's nothing that comes in front of the
Right.
stem or the verb root
Yeah. So if
in the command form.
If it's a zero conjugation and a zero classifier, then you'll just say the root. Like for example, so there's that one, ka. That means sow it, right? So I'll show you one that's very similar that we just did. So if we go down to cha, to eat, cha. Same thing. You're just saying that verb root, that stem. So there's cha and ka, but now we'll look at one that's a little different. If we want people to go to sleep. Nata. And then day is on because we're already grumpy about it. Right? But nata. Nata on its own means go to sleep. That's a command, right? Most Tlingit households have kids who will say, not today, ha ha ha, right? And so, but we see it right here. There's a subject, it's a zero classifier, but it's a na conjugation, right? And so now it puts it into that mode, nata, right? Okay. Yay. And that's why people say that. And so, okay. So being places, going places usually requires some kind of suffix or some kind of base. This is what we use these things for. And so, for example, and again, a reminder, if you got time, if you want to go to Teslin, we're going to have a 5-day intensive workshop there, the 17th to the 21st. We would have had more details, but they had a death in their community, and that really slows things down. That's a very traditional community, to the point where there was a tourist who drowned in the lake, and they stopped fishing until they could find that body, just because that's their tradition. And even like they were going to have their inland celebration, and it was really toned down because somebody just passed away, and it wasn't from there at all. And wasn't going there to visit people. It was a tourist from another country. But so then when one of their own community members passes away, they just slow things way down. But 17th to the 21st, we'll be going probably 8 hours a day, just trying to hammer out a bunch of Tlingit. And it's fun to learn in those types of environments, and there'll be a number of fluent speakers there as well to just interact with. So keep it on your radar.
December?
It's coming up pretty fast. And then we'll have probably, I haven't figured it out yet, but during spring break, we might do a beginner camp in Atlin, which might be fun if you've never been to Atlin or if you want to go. It always helps to have other learners who are there. And then I'm sure we're going to have something over the summer in Carcross or Teslin or both. They've been really enjoying these kind of intensives because then you go all day long. And you can cover a lot, I think, in that amount of time. Okay, so this was an idea from Kyle Worrell to sort of come up with some of these ideas just to show how this stuff works. And so we'll do this with a verb. And the verb is yeyeti. Yeyeti.
Gaiety.
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 And on its own, that verb means to be a certain way. But once you put some kind of location in front of it, especially with this suffix, that means to be located somewhere. And it could mean to reside somewhere as well. So, this thing here is called kook. 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 This thing is called ah. 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 Let's just do
Is it an underlined K then? Or it would,
for the box.
no, the ka.
No, it's just X apostrophe right there. Ah. Ah. Ah.
I guess I don't get it then. What is it?
Where
K
you,
underline sound like?
So if that was two K underlines, it would be k. So you have k and k. So the K has a little bit more of a click, and the X has more of a scrape.
the K, the plain K,
Uh-huh.
just like the English plain K.
Mm-hmm.
Feel in your mouth, say k. Okay, and now the plain X, same place.
That's our cappuccino machine.
So one is voiced and one isn't voiced.
No,
Neither are voiced.
Neither?
Neither are voiced, yeah. But they're at the same place, but one is going k, and the other is going. So what it has to do with how much is it stopping the airflow.
so for the X, there's friction.
Yeah.
And for the K, you stop the air completely.
Because if you had to show, go away, little thing. I don't know why that thing doesn't go away.
How would you say it? Cock. But he says,
Up,
I guess I've been saying.
Because you could have these things here, which would be the first one. How would we translate the top one?
The little one,
A little apple. And how would we translate the bottom one?
lots of them.
Apples, right? So if we're going to use this to hear that difference, the first one we would have and the bottom one would have and it's tough to hear that difference, right? Because neither of those sounds actually exist in English, right? So then we start saying, oh, we got to hear the difference between those. And so, but that's and they have that sound in there. And same with, we're going to see it right here. Kuch, 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 kuch. To be located and kind of, this X on its own as a suffix means to sort of be at rest there. It's just there. It's residing there, right? So we'll say hook kuch, hook kuch, hook kuch yeyati wake ach. And then we can be underneath the box. Tayir, tayir, hook tayir, hook tayir yeyati wake ach. And then we could be in front of it. Shukach, shukach, hook shukach, hook shukach yeyati wake ach. We could be behind. Teich, teich, I made a mistake. That should be hook teich.
Hook, take,
Hook teich yeyati wekach.
hook, take, yeti, wake, ah. Could you say the with the pinch after the T and without, just so we can just hear the sound a little better?
This one right here.
Yeah.
So the mistake is teich,
Take,
and the correct way is teich.
take,
So when you have this after a consonant, it means you're making that consonant without using your lungs, which requires this really forceful push. We call them ejectives because they make the herring eggs come out of your mouth, right? And so they come. Those are the ones that come out pretty harsh like that. Okay, so inside a closed container, tuch, hook tuch, hook tuch, yeyati wekach.
yeti, wake, ah.
And then to be sitting next to, takka, takka, hook takka,
Hook, duck, ka,
hook takka, yeyati wekach.
hook, yeti, wake, ah.
There's another one of these base things, which is Dane, and it means to be in that vicinity, in that area. So if you say tuck, Dane, hit, ton, and you contract it all, you get tuck, Dane, ton. So that's where that name comes from, right? We'll see this stuff in clan names. In between, chak, chak, hook, chak, hook, chak, yeyati wechak.
Yeti, wake, ah.
There's a related chak, which means the saddle, especially like up in a mountain, these two peaks, and you got this little saddle there. That's chak. And then to be on, or if the box is open, and you're going to get some, there's not always clarity on this one. It might depend on how deep the box is, because it could be kuk, it could be yik. It's rarely tu unless that container is closed. So there's a few conceptual things that you'll find in Tlingit as well. Now we know all about where that apple is. So we'll do one more set of these that has to do, they're a little different because they get some motion involved. And then we'll take a quick break and we'll do our presentations and then we'll do some different. So here's our little, this guy. So we also, again, we have hook, and we have tsisk, tsisk, tsisk. This one is interesting because there are some communities, Klukwan notably, because there's tsisk and zisk. And for most places, tsisk is this thing, zisk is the guy with the big antlers. But in Klukwan, zisk is this thing, and sisk is the thing with the...
Oh, no.
Maybe they were the same thing a long time ago. I don't really know.
What was the word for owl we used yesterday?
He's the one without the tufts.
Oh.
He's the one with all the special magic powers, too. That's the one you don't mess around with. Well, you don't mess around with anything, but that's the one you got to be real careful around. So then the verb we're going to use here is to be in the act of flying. Yandakin.
Yandakin,
Yandakin.
yandakin.
And there's a place in Juneau called Yandakin Drive. But the sign is a little, we just got to fix the sign, that's all. And there's Kanata Drive, Sometimes we hear on the radio as Canada Drive or
Yeah, yeah.
like, is that ginger ale? So this one is to go over the top.
Yeah.
And it could be going along the top of as well. Like if there was a little mouse in the room and it ran across the top of that table, it would be kanach, right? And we're going to get some different patterns because this is ka, right, to be on something. But once we put nach on it, they tend to both go flat. And so there's just some interesting things that happen with combinations of these things. But we'll say huk kanach. Huk kanach yendakin weitsisk. Huk tayide. Because it's got a different suffix. Like it's in the act of going. You could say tayich as well, but we'll get to the differences between that. Huk tayide yendakin weitsisk. And then yanach means along the face of, but this is how you'd say, Super Bear yanach ayachukuch. I was driving past Super Bear, right? To go past something. Huk yanach. Huk yanach yendakin weitsisk.
And could we also say kuk yanach wait is yandakin?
Yeah, that's fine.
But it doesn't really matter. I mean, we've been saying SOV.
Right. Well, so
This is
the subject is locked in the verb. You cannot move them around, the objects and subjects. But the verb itself can be moved around. So really you've got kuk, which is a noun, kuk yanach. You have to keep those together. But then you have yandakin. You have to keep those together. Weitsisk. So you have these sort of three components that's separate from the object and subject, because those are stuck in the verb. You can't move them around. But you can move those three things around. You could say yandakin weitsisk kuk yanach. And so when they start teaching Hawaiian grammar, it's really fun because they teach it through Hawaiian. And they have this thing called he'e, this is a really fun cross-language thing. He'e, llingit chinach naq. That's the way octopus, right? So he'e is the Hawaiian word for octopus. They have another word for squid, which I don't remember. But when they speak English, they call an octopus a squid. And I was like, well, what do you guys call a squid? I said, a squid. I was like, how do you know if it's an octopus or a squid? And they're like, you just know. If you need to know, you'll say, hey. I was like, I don't get it. But they use that octopus as a symbol of their grammar to show that all of these things are like a tentacle, and it can move around. And that's the same thing here. For tlingit, it depends on what the most important thing you're communicating goes first. So if the important part is that it's going in front of this box, and that's what I'll start with. If the important thing that it's flying, then that's what I'll start with. If the important thing is that it's this little owl, that's what I'll start with. So as we learn, we learn these common patterns, right? Where it is, what it's doing, and then specifying who's doing it. But it's not weitsisk. He's the one doing it, but the pronouns are still built into. Because you could say, Kuk yanach yanchadakin. I'm flying in front of the box, if I was the owl. If I was talking to the owl, I could say, Kuk yanach yanidakin. You're flying in front of the box. Okay? Oh, there it is again. Shame on myself. Huk ede. Huk ede yandakin weitsisk. Huk tunach. Huk tunach yandakin weitsisk. So tunach means to go through the inside, right? Tu and nach. And then it's going to go on to it. Tuk kade. Kade yandakin wetsisk. Fly between them. Tuk ach. Tuk ach yandakin wetsisk. And then we're going to get a different verb because he's going to land. He landed. Wuchakuk is for a bird to land, for somebody to squat, or for an octopus to squat walk. It's kind of a cool verb. Kuk cut. Wuchakuk. Kuk cut wuchakuk weitsisk. Where'd the W go on your name? Gee. Okay, well, I gotta fix some things on that. Wuchakuk would also be for a plane to land. It's pretty cool. Okay. Take 5. Whoever's doing a presentation, make sure you're gonna be ready. We'll do your presentations. Then we'll just have a little bit of a wrap up. We get together Tuesday and we'll just get right into everybody else's presentations. Okay. Cajun when it's chanach.
Those graphics are beautiful. Those are very attractive.
Sheesh.
Says
Really
the
fun to
artist.
look at as the artist.
Magawa.
Oh, okay.
Kusai tuasukui kakitahan. Yakaka. You wake. Wait up. Oh, I guess.
Really, you should stand by the camera because it's so too far away, it's just picking.
Yeah. We get these fancy cameras in here, but they don't work for a Mac.
They don't need to see me.
Mac haters.
I don't know, or do you think they see this better if just to screen share? I don't know.
Well, it is screen share.
Okay.
They get the best of both worlds.
Cool. Gallni aya at go to 2 day nach to Shage yedewut Tlell shach wad chydewut Goth kut ke gach to Clegg Clegg or Clegg Ja, de jikt Jan to ut itch dach kus te chositin kus te Bi jadi chao gut ka nachutu at as kwani chu Jan to ut slach Jan at da ye Sheye utusitin. Zus ani kach chagude. Gande na gude kach yagude. Klap. Pet ach kwani hu ye yati klap. Ayu shashaki we hind ki chasitin yuk. Argan yinde wuchi de shuk ye ha yati tle kapit ha katuagut tatsu ye ner dech de wutu at. Sure. So those two phrases that came from the little book that you just gave us. Are you in a hurry? No, I'm not in a hurry. I was trying to say, maybe we'll get lost. And then this one, I don't really know how to say it, but I was kind of wanting to say, we're going to go on the trail, or we went on the trail, and from here, I can see my footprints.
Okay. You'd probably say de yich. That would be just along the trail.
Okay.
So this is one of those. We're going to get into several of these. Like, this is just where we're at, talking about these suffixes and which ones to use. So yich would be just along the trail.
Okay. And I know the day is supposed to be low tone, and I don't know what happened with that high tone T. That's a new one.
Oh, there's a high tone T? Where's it?
I made that up. It's a new letter.
I don't know how to. Okay, okay.
And
then it, like after that, right?
yeah.
So it means following it, but it could also mean like after that, time-wise.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know how to say, but it's like I was trying to say like after we had walked on that part. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
We could see footprints after we walked.
Yeah. So like it awe ach us iti would do zatin.
Okay.
So this is where the fourth person gets used. Like my footprints could be seen.
Okay.
Did zatin. People see them.
Because I know I had to say kwasetin, because you can't really say that two people saw something at the exact same time.
You can watusatin. You could do that.
Okay. So some of the nouns I had in my list were fi, jadi, how, and gut. Gut is a hill. Maybe it's bigger than that, but and fi, jadi, and how are fallen trees. Yeah.
Okay. Qichadi is like a windblown tree, usually ripped in half.
Yeah.
And how is one that's tipped over and the roots are poking up.
And then there's also one which is qidadi, and I think that's similar to how.
Yeah, qidadi is just a tree that's down.
Okay. And then kanahutua, I didn't know if that's how you'd say like walking over something. Okay.
Yeah, what?
Asquani ku, so among the tree people, yantu at who walked, and then yashloch, red cedar, yan hemlock at dai. Birch, I've never seen birch in Juna, but just
Transplants.
and shea is a spruce tree.
Dai, Safeway.
Achitidat anushi at dai.
Oh, and I guess I said watusatin.
Yeah, watusatin, we saw it.
Spruce is a pine cone. And so I said, Sus anikach chogudi. I stepped on a pine cone, and dande nagudi kach yagudi. You stepped in poop. Then good is like a spruce needle, and achkoni tu yati inside my boot.
Okay.
And then
Susani kachwagudi would be sort of like I was walking along on a. So kautli yes would be the verb to step on something.
just once.
That's how you really step in it.
And I really was unsure of the sentence, so I was trying to say the mountains in the distance are above the water.
Mm.
I see that like way over there. You and Gagan Yinde Wuchi, who's what I found in the online verb dictionary for the sun is going down.
Mm-hmm. Ka, ka, ka. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, Sha, like the mountain top, maybe. You might just say the mountain. Hin Kiyanach across. Or there's a couple different ways to say across the river. Diki is usually like Deki, or Diki is up high. Deki is out to sea, so it depends which one you're using. But yeah, there's ways to say across a body of water.
Okay.
It gets a little complicated in Tlingit, but yeah, I would say probably Diyanach. There was these mountains on the other side of the river. Okay.
De shuk ye ha yati. So we got to the end of the trail, and Nawea helped me. I can't remember what he said that de did, but it's similar to yun, maybe? Like to symbolize.
So like yun, so you would say de shu yun yeha yati. Like we had, the yun wouldn't really work. It would be more like yun wutua, like we finished.
Yeah.
Got there. But this de shu yeha yati. By the time we got there. And so usually when day pops up before a verb, it means it's already happened. So like the word order might say like de shu keha yati kle de kakita kata. By the time we got there, it was already dark.
Yeah, because I guess the day and the clay are kind of doing similar things.
Yeah.
And then.
So usually day in front of a verb, you're gonna say like hastihiti de ayachuku di de hasawacha. Right? When I got to their house, they had already eaten.
So, it at the same time, like darkness had cut to a good, the darkness came on us. And Satsuye is this means like finally, Neftech Deutat home. We got there. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. This should probably just be day or tea. Okay. Can get one.
I'm pretty old school. I still have a poster board.
Okay. Do you want to put it right here? Is that
Well,
possible?
I was thinking if I sat, I'd feel like less at ease if I was right here just sitting.
Okay.
Like I'm at on my couch where the only place I've been practicing it. Okay, so I'll stand over this. I started out with the 13 words and I didn't quite memorize all, so I decided I'll supplement with them. So my focus is kinship, or let's see, achune yuchat yahune yuk atank.
Okay.
Shlish ish sa kik yatke yadi si yeet Dutch hun hund keek Connie keek shock shut honey cock. Some other words. I can always say it until I'm trying to. Klechasaku. Dasaya. Arasawe. So Achuni. Let's see. Do Tha, Irene Robinson, you do a sock, Wishdak Dekla, Klinkek Krenak. Let's see, do Kla, Akli, and Keener, you do a sock, Klinkek Krenak, Kanaka do Art. Do please, Fanny Charles, you do a sock, Wishdak Dekla, Klinkek Krenak. Do Ish, Joe Albialde, Senior. Let's see, do Ish, Charlie Charles, Ka, Fanny, let's see, do Eek, Engel and Bill Peterson, Ka, Eek, do Eek, Joseph and Peter Johnson, do Eek, Joe Albialde Jr., Ka, Robert and Alan Albialde, do Peek, Johanna Alamarang. Keek, Ka, Yeek, Shaya Deheen, Klinkek Enoch, cousin. Do Hun, husband is hard for me to say. Hoch, Klech Duch, David Harmon, Udasalk, Dave Hoch, Chuck Robinson. Do Connie, Agnes Johnson, Dixie Johnson, Jan Albialde. Do C, do Yeti, C, Laura, Terry, Denise, me, Katie, Jackie. Do Yeet, Jeff, Richard, Sean, Aaron, and Thomas. And Clay, Clay Ka, Daka Dushu, Dutch Hun. Do Phoebe, Klinkek Enoch, Tseklewuk. Achka, do Ach Kani, Achka, do Ach Keek, Hawaii ha Gach Tukin, do Gach keen. Dakadishu zutat dakadishu yayiki.
Okay.
Jishi awe wush to zehan.
Echa, Christisch. Ach, kon nach je Ah. Oh, yes, it's amazing just to watch you guys use the language, and I think just once you start to get it, like you could find, especially using tools and stuff, you could talk about so much stuff. I had a couple of thoughts, just things that we could all sort of maybe try out. So I put some things up here. Oh, I better share this. Somebody typed, clap, clap, clap. Whatever you guys do is going to be amazing. Like just to use this language, like we just keep looking at all the depth, and there's so much to it. And then just to say, like you could stand up here and communicate stuff, talking about family, relationships, things like that, and then narrating these short stories. It's so much fun to be a part of this with you guys. So I put some things up here on the screen, and I was hoping that someone could tell me what these things are doing.
Is that when you're counting people?
Yeah, so this is how you count people. So you'd say like, Dachnach away achyetki, which would be I have 2 children. Well, I have 3, but that's just a simple sentence. Don't tell the third one. No, I was kidding.
But 2 girls.
Yeah, well, okay, I won't go. But so this is how you count people, right? And so you could say, I saw 2 people. There were 3 of them. She has 2 husbands, right? And so, but this is how you count people. And then the other thing that people tend to do with kinship, which I don't think you really have to do it, is they'll say ach jiwu, to say I have. But jiwu is more like they're in my possession. So I don't think it's anything that's wrong, but I think you could just say naskinach ach yetki. They are 3, my children. That's all you need to do. And so just to get sort of the thought world of the language, kleinach could also mean lonely or by themselves. So you could say like, kleinach I'm going to go there by myself. And you could be just communicating something. Like maybe you say, hundake de kakwagud, and you get all these freeloading relatives. I don't know. Oh, hatuasaku. We want to go. I'm going to go by myself. Right? So kleinach could also mean by one's self. And it can also mean, you say kleinachwuti. And you could say like, the default is people will probably think they were lonely. They were by themselves. But it could also, it just depends on kind of the context. What about some of the other ones?
Is Kleicha, is that the first one?
Yeah, so Kleicha, the first one, Dach'a, the second one, Nusk'a, the third one. And that's just kind of how those work, right? So I could say Dacha'oe ach yedi, the second child. Dacha'oe duchuch, her second husband, right? And so there's different ways to sort of use that. But then you could, Nusk'a, the third one. So that's generally how those ones work. Okay.
So on for the people, so instead of saying I have, what would you say?
I would just say I would say like, for example, Dachnach or I'd say naskinach awe ach yetki. That's it. So just that number of people, awe, kinship. And so this is what we find with Tlingit is you don't always have to have all the same linking things that English has. Sometimes you'll have different ones. Sometimes you'll have very few because it's just like that. And then we just know what you're talking about. Right? But you typically pluralize the kinship term. So I have two mothers. Dachnach awe achtla has. Ya achtla dushatch aya. Kechatu sewat achoe hutsu achtlach sati. I have two mothers. My mother's older sister raised me. That's why she's my mother. But long time ago, your mother's sisters, you would call them achtla. That's just how that worked too. That's what we hear. Okay, what about the other two? Kecha, dachka, naskcha.
Or, I know when you go to the store, you use ka, but I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a different, it might be the same, but when it goes on to numbers like this, kecha, one at a time. Dachka, two at a time. Naskcha, three at a time. Right? And so this, you're talking about sets. So I've been trying to figure out how to use these a lot, just teaching some math to my daughter so that we could count by threes, count by fours, stuff like that. Dachka would be in pairs. And then Kruch Yedi, yes. Pleidahin once, Dachdahin twice, Naskedahin three times a lady, or how's that supposed to like Dachdahin awa, Dachdahin wachahatakach, Kaudagwash, Kuch, knocked on the door twice. And so this is how many times the thing might happen. So this is what Tlingit does with numbers. Samalgach is interesting because I think you count types of objects differently. So it depends on what type of object it is. And Tlingit has something like that, but it's more like when you carry it to bring it here or hand it to me or bring it there, there's about 16 different verbs depending on what type of object it is.
That one seems like you could use it for multiplying.
Yeah, I think you could, right? And so same with the dachka, right? So for counting by sets and also multiplying. So
Is it
yeah,
groups of three or groups of two?
right. So yeah. So what if you had dachka and there's different. Yeah, we'll have to. What I want to do is get some speakers together and a math teacher and just start talking out some of these concepts because like subtraction and multiplication and division.
I think some of these are in Auntie Catherine's math book.
Yeah, so there's her math book, and then Goldbelt has a number of different math things. I want to start going through. They've already done a lot of that legwork for us. Oops. Okay, Johan. So let's talk about kinship because we're in that point in our beginning Tlingit workbook, and we'll just sort of close out talking about kinship. And then so Tuesday we'll just have your presentations, and then we'll be at rest until next semester. So hope you guys come back. We're going to try and add some more folks to the group, and then we'll just kind of keep going. We'll keep doing the same thing. Just move through beginning Tlingit workbook, grasping some of the concepts at a deeper level, and then supplementing that with additional piling on some stuff like more of these bases and suffixes, more verb work, really starting to pick a set of verbs that we think, ideally you should have a set of probably 20 verbs that you can use those any way. Like you can use it in a command, you could use it as a perfective. Some of the other stuff like, there's no way I could go there, that's getting pretty complicated. That's probably more advanced stuff. But so the pattern is do kinship term aweh. So we're just saying that is his or her. Do tla aweh. Do tla aweh. Du ish awe. Du ish awe. Du kak awe. Du kak awe. Du kak awe. Du kak awe. Du sunny awe. Du sunny awe. Du art awe. Du art awe. Du shishk awe. Du shishk awe. And there's some of them, yadi and shishk, where it's not a gendered term. And there's ways to say that. You could say ka shishk, shawat a shishk, ka a shishk. And so we see that again, just like here. It means one of them or some of them. It could mean either way. So ka male one, shishk. Shawat yadi, female one, child. So you could string them together like that. We're going to also see what's really important is same clan, opposites, same moiety, right? Are they? And so there's also some things in here that touch on marriage and things like that, and we'll just go over how it works, not trying to judge anybody's life or anything like that. So there's a question, so like you could say, i'at aqua. Is that your paternal aunt? Your father's sister is also how we could translate that. And then there's a set of gendered kinship terms, right? So a female has, and we're not trying to assign gender to anybody, but this is just how the kinship works in Tlingit. Females have older sisters, younger sisters, and just brothers. So they don't use the term for older, younger, because if you look at a traditional Tlingit household long time ago, the older boys told the younger boys what to do, but they didn't really tell the girls what to do. The older girls told the younger girls what to do, but they didn't really tell the boys what to do. And that's what kinship reveals to us, I think. And so because of that, a female has an older sister, Dushatch awe. Dushatch awe. Dukik awe. Dukik awe. Dukik awe. Duik awe. Duik awe. So male has an older brother, Duhunch awe. Duhunch awe. Dukik awe. Dukik awe. Duglak awe. Duglak awe. And there are ways to talk about that stuff. You could say, like, let's say I want to talk about this person's sister, and she's the firstborn sister. Dushatch a glak. Oldest sister won his sister. It gets a little complicated, but you can do that. You could also say, and you have hunchua yit, my oldest son, right? And then you can count from there, right? If you got a bunch of kids, ach naski yit, my third-born son, right? And so it's just putting those things together if you want to do that, because these are the things that people like to talk about their family. But the kinship structure in Tlingit, it just works just different, right?
Kind of went by me too fast, but you kept putting in there.
Yeah, so is the one or the ones. Especially like if it comes after, so ach hunchu yit. So it's ach yit, but the hunchu he's the oldest of his siblings, of the sons.
Okay, so I was thinking that you were saying like kla du ish.
Yeah, that works. Achla du ish, because you could just walk through kinship like that as well. So you could say achlish kawe, achla du ish, my grandparent, my mother's father. And then you could walk all around kinship charts. Like someone said, "How are you related to Marilyn Wilson?" I was like, "Oh, well, her husband was my mother's father's sister's son." Right, and it makes sense in my Tlingit brain, right? So you get, and that's how it works. You could say, "Oh, how do chuch yi." So there's this other term that we'll learn next semester. Like you'd use yi in various ways, like if they're not around anymore or if they got divorced, right? But I would say do chuch away, ach kla, do ish, do tlak, do yeet away. So that's just going up these family trees and around, right? And this isn't, and sometimes we want to know this stuff. Like, how are you related to that person? And you can walk through the kinship chart in Tlingit using that. So do, or ach, blank, do, and you could go as long as you want. Okay, so children, one child.
Yadi.
Do yadi away,
Yadi awe.
do yadi away, do yatki away,
Yatki awe.
do yatki away.
Yatki awe.
This, I think, is the only one that gets a possessive marker, right? Because yet would be a child. It's always yeti, and so it takes this possessive marker, and we know that because it can pluralize. So we did the plural marker, but the one thing that we didn't do yet is the plural relational marker. So like you say, ach hiti, my house, ach hitchi, my houses, because I'm just rolling in the money, right? But that's how the yetki works. So when you hear yetki, like they'll say, shukach adi yetki hey, right? And then all those, the peoples whose fathers are shukach adi should be standing up and hooting and hollering. We're trying to really get that with this next generation. It's like, man, just yell for your father's clan. So I'm telling my kids that. It's like, yell for me. And then you can have daughter. Do see away.
Do see away,
Do see away.
do see away,
Do yeet away.
do yeet away,
Do yeet away.
do yeet away,
Do dachchan away.
do dachchan away,
Do dachchan away.
do dachchan away.
So this one we were getting a little confused on. So you have keshk and kash. The way it works is you're an eagle side. All those little eaglets are keshk. Doesn't matter if they're a boy or a girl. All those little ravenlets, I don't know what you call little yeshk. All those little raven kids are kashk. So it comes down to same moiety, opposite, not gender. Gender does not matter, right? Do keshk away.
Do cake away,
Do keshk away.
do cake away,
Do kashk away.
do kashk away,
Do kashk away.
do kashk away,
A husband. Do chuch away.
do hook away,
Do chuch away.
do hook away,
A wife. Do shut away.
do shut away,
Do shut away.
do shut away,
A mother-in-law. Do chan away.
do chan away,
Do chan away.
do chan away,
Father-in-law. Do woo away.
do woo away,
Do woo away.
do woo away.
And so then we get some sort of things that help us to put these together. So you could say chataya,
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 achshishk ayayadu,
achlish ayayadu,
achshishk ayayadu,
achlish ayayadu,
do dachchan ayachat,
do dachchan ayachat,
do dachchan ayachat,
do dachchan ayachat,
achshishk dachchan ayachat,
achlish dachchan ayachat,
Achlish dachchan ayachat.
Achlish dachan ayachat.
Achish ayah.
Achish ayah.
Achish ayah.
Achish ayah.
Achlish yit away achish.
Achlish yit away achish.
Achlish yit away achish.
Achlish yit away achish.
Ach ish, yeah. And when I was like showing a picture, it would be ayah, not aweh.
Yeah, yeah. So like, cause yeah, they're right. Or if I was like, they're right here, and I'm telling you about them. Yeah, cause yeah, where. And it could be you, like they're way over there. And then these are things like my father is my grandparents. Like, of course, right? But all it's showing you is like how to put these things together. And if you start getting more than two, then you start using the de just to help people keep it straight. Right? But it could be like, oh, who is that? And we're just trying to describe who somebody is, right? Who's your people? Right? And so this is some of that stuff that does help do that. Ach ish yit ayachat.
Achish ayachat.
Ach ish si ayachat.
Achish si ayachat.
Kusui ish.
Kusui ish.
Kusui ish.
Kusui ish.
Wedu ach ish.
Wedu achish.
Wedu ach ish.
Wedu achish.
Adusa iyatin.
Adusa iatin.
Adusa iyatin.
Adusa iatin.
Ach ish chatin.
Achish chatin.
Ach ish chatin.
Achish chatin.
So usually when you're saying adusa, that's not usually the person doing that verb, right? So it's like, who do you see? But if it's like, who's doing that verb, you'd say aduch sa. And so aduch sa, whenever you hear that one, it's sort of like, who's doing that verb, right? Who's doing that verb? But adu sa is just sort of like, who is that? And then the verb tells you that stuff, like you see him or her. Right? Isani akwa. Isani akwa. Sometimes that's a funny thing, teasing to say. Don't exactly, it's just how, because there's this, I used to say it to my kids, I would see a mannequin in the store window, like, "Isani akwa?" And they get mad, like, don't do that. And there's some special relationship there.
Is that dot in a kwe just to show that the W and the K aren't
That's why I put it there.
actually a glottal stop there?
There are some people who argue that there is, but I don't really hear it. I don't hear people go, akwe. It's akwe.
In fact, it sounds, usually they say more like gwe.
Mm,
To me, that's what
Right.
I hear.
right. Yeah, there were some people who were making like a pretty harsh stand about the glottal, so I just put it in there to.
No, it's not just you, I think.
I would probably just write a AKWE.
But it's not really
Akwe.
no, it's not that.
Right. Because it probably is AGWE. Because it's ge, we.
Right, right.
Those are the three things you're getting in there. It tends to contract. But it's pretty common for a G, when its vowel gets taken away, it changes to a K. We do get that, but it's probably somewhere in between an actual K and a G.
Well, isn't the G,
Yeah,
it's the same place in your mouth, so that's exactly right.
right.
It's just a different, just like we were talking about the and the k.
Because it's not quite like agwe. It's not like that. It's akwe. It's,
Yeah.
but the vocal cord stops very fast. And I think that's, I don't know, it was like it was becoming such a big issue. I was like, I don't know, that's not a very big deal. Yeah.
I was thinking that so there are two indicators of a glottal stop in Tlingit, and one is the pinch, and the other is the dot, and that the dot was between vowels.
Right.
And then I saw this.
The other case where we'll use the dot is if there's an S classifier, and then sometimes it starts with a vowel afterwards. I'll try and find some examples. There's a L. I don't know, I'll have to find it. But the last thing I'll say about kinship, there's a bunch of stuff where we're using all the phrases we've learned in beginning Tlingit, but now we're starting to attach kinship terms on there to show you can use any of these phrases and then add something on it to specify who we're talking about. But when we talk about kinship, and there's some new words here, but one of the important things is there's these charts here, and to remember, like we're talking about the relationship between clans and individuals who happen to have these names. So a couple things that are important is you inherit that structure that your namesake had before you. So if my name is Chone, and if Chone had a brother named Skinya, and I meet someone named Skinya, that is my brother, right? And also, the brother terms too are a little cloudy, so sometimes like, I knew a guy and his uncle was named Chone. So he was 90 years old, and he'd turn to me and say, Achsani yakech satini. So the age doesn't matter, the relationship is the thing that matters. The other thing is when we look at this and we say, when I say for a female, achshek, if you are Kagwantan, that's all the older Kagwantan ladies from your generation. They're from your basic generation, but they're older than you. So when Bessie Cooley, and same with like if you're close to them, when Bessie came to visit Nora Downhauer, she says, Achshet awa, my older sister. And it does not have to do with bloodlines. This has to do with closeness and clan, especially all those clan members. If you're thinking old school, if they're Shukach Adi and they are men of my generation, they're going to be Hunch or Keeg. That's how I need to refer to them. And there's nothing closer than kinship. To even just a greeting, Hunch, to just as a saying hello, right? And same with this stuff. So like when I say Achsani, all those Kagwantan guys who are of my father's generation. Achat, all those Kagwantan ladies who are of my father's generation. So it's more of a clan and generation thing than a specific bloodline. So that's why we don't have cousins, because we just figure out how is the clan related. And then Kani is the default for I'm a raven, they're an eagle. Kani. But if I figure out it's closer than that, then I'll grab one that's closer. And so it's just something to think about. We'll start here next semester, and we'll keep doing the verb stuff, directional stuff. We'll do stories now and then. Okay.
Sheesh.
Do you have a question?
In Jessie Dalton's speech, she uses all the paternal relations because she's uplifting her opposites, right?
Yes, so if you stand up to make a public speech, you're going to use this side, your opposites. Don't talk about yourself. I remember I was somewhere and I saw at a kuich, and maybe this is something you want to do, but you just can't. You can't stand up and said, we did a really good job. You can't do that. You just can't. Or, I really want to uplift. It's like you're just bragging on yourself. That's the cultural side. And so we want to move away from standing up to give an introduction to standing up to give love and support to your opposite clan members. That's why those big speeches, they'll start with, Achish has, Achsani has, Achat has. That's who they're reaching out to. Achkaniyan. And then they start moving into their content. And so it's really interesting because like the way that funeral speeches used to be was all those opposite clans would stand up and give their support. And then the host clan, or the clan, they're kind of not really the host, but the ones who have gone through the loss, they would start responding. And what they should be doing is thanking those opposites for what they did, and trying not to talk about yourself. And this is public speaking, not like just day-to-day stuff. You can do a lot, especially if you really know someone. Anyway, but we tease each other a lot. He is qanach teidi and I'm shukach adi, and we'd tease each other. We'd be like, we're gonna build the forts again, because we used to fight with each other, and so you can get away with a lot. But then if people you don't know start watching you gotta be a little more careful. Okay, work well. Let me know if you got questions. I'll certainly help as much as I can. And we get together next Tuesday. Tuesday, we're going to roll through your guys' presentations.
5 minutes each. We spent
5
5
minutes
minutes for each one day.
5, 6, don't go into your 20-minute teach me everything you know. Just do a little something in the language. You're just sharing something with us. That's all it is.
We'll do 6 words.
Should I go 20 minutes?
Yeah, same time, 5:30 to 7:30.
Maybe I went 5.
Okay.
I didn't time you. I was going